Today we will be talking about one of the most severe forms of valvular heart disease, that is aortic regurgitation. Aortic regurgitation is a condition in which there is an abnormal leakage of blood from aorta into the left ventricle during diastole. In normal people, the valve coagulates properly and does not allow a single ml of blood to leak from aorta into the ventricles. So, however, some conditions can lead to conditions like valvular defect in valvular leaflets or dilation of the annular ring can contribute to regurgitation. So, this contribute to a volume overload in the left ventricle. So, the left ventricle compensates by forming eccentric hypertrophy, and if the disease is not treated, it can contribute to dilation of the left ventricle and into left ventricular failure. So, now let us talk about the causes of aortic regurgitation. The most common cause of aortic regurgitation is bicuspid aortic valve. Bicuspid aortic valve can cause either aortic stenosis or aortic regurgitation, or it can cause both together as well. Endocarditis can the endocarditis can be that much severe, it can even perforate one of the leaflet of the aortic valve, and it can contribute to aortic regurgitation as well. Rheumatic heart disease thickens the valve and cause fibrosis of the leaflets, so the valve cannot coagulate properly and can lead to aortic regurgitation as well. Then myxomatous degeneration can contribute to mitral valve prolapse or aortic regurgitation. It causes it is due to defect in type 3 collagen. So the valve is usually weak, especially the mitral and the aortic valve. So myxomatous degeneration can cause either MVP or aortic regurgitation as well. Then ankylosing spondylitis is a rheumatic condition in which there are some cardiac manifestation, especially the most common cardiac manifestation of ankylosing spondylitis is aortic regurgitation. Now, and all these causes just I talked about is like due to the intrinsic defect of the valve leaflet, but here these three conditions we have aortic regurgitation because of extrinsic defect in the valve. Extrinsic defect means annular dilation of aortic valve. So, these three contribute to annular dilation of aortic valve. So, syphilis can cause obliterative endarteritis of vasa vasorum of the aortic valve, which simply means that it obliterates the vessels which supply the aorta. So, if the disease progresses, it can even dilate the annular ring as well. So, it can contribute to aortic regurgitation. So, here you can see in normal valve, the valve closes completely or coagulates properly, but however, if the ring is dilated, it means it cannot close properly. So, blood can leak from here. So, this is the reason why annular ring dilation can contribute to aortic regurgitation. Then aortitis can also contribute to aortic regurgitation as well, simply the fact because it can dilate the root of annular ring. Then aortic dissection can also contribute to aortic regurgitation, and the most common cause of aortic dissection is hypertension followed by Marfan syndrome. So, you have to look for these also in the questions as well. Now, let us talk about the clinical features of aortic regurgitation. Usually, the aortic regurgitation can be symptomatic for about 10 to 15 years, but we should do surgery as soon as the symptoms appear, because we want to prevent the hypertrophy or the eccentric hypertrophy of the left ventricle in order to prevent later prognosis and all. So, the symptoms the patient may feel uncomfortable while supine position, simply the fact that he can feel his heart beating, like because of the blood in aortic regurgitation will be going there and coming back again like this. So, he can also have pounding sensation in his head as well. Then dyspnea can be felt because of the transmission of pressure back into the pulmonary circulation. Then angina simply the fact because the hypertrophy of the left ventricle increases the demand for oxygen. So, the coronary vessels remain same, but the heart become big. So, it cannot provide enough oxygen to the coronary vessels cannot provide enough oxygen to maintain the cardiac output. So, it can cause angina. Now on examination we can find de Moussette sign, which means to and fro movement of the head. So, So now let me tell you a simple concept. In case of aortic regurgitation, during systole the blood goes through the aorta, but during diastole in normal people the blood remains here like this, but in aortic regurgitation blood will be moving here there, like it will go in systole there, coming and back like this. So this can contribute to either like de Moussert sign, which means like to and fro movement of the head, or we can even see the pulsation in the uvula, which is called Miller sign. Then collapsing pulse can be seen. Collapsing pulse is a condition like it's a type of examination we should do in all patients we suspect of aortic regurgitation. So to do water hammer pulse or collapsing coronary signs, we obliterate the radial artery of the patient's right arm, and we lift the arm suddenly, so all the blood can come back into the heart. So due to Frank Starling law, we know that as more the myocardium stretches, the more force it generates. So if you lift the hand suddenly, the next pulse will be of intense pressure. So we can see intense pressure or intensity of pulse will be increased if we lift the arm by obliterating the radial artery. We call this Corrigan's pulse or water hammer pulse or collapsing pulse. Then other finding you can see on examination is Kunicke sign, which means you can see a pulsatile motion in the nail bed of the patient. Then Trauber sign is the pistol shot sound heard on the femoral artery due to blood is moving to and fro motion. This you have to remember is that Trauber's sign is seen in femoral artery. Now another concept I want to talk about is of the pulse pressure. In normal people, the pulse pressure in the upper and lower limb is different by 20 mmHg. Simply the fact that like due to the gravity, the pressure in the left and the lower limb will be increased. But however, this does not exceed 20 millimeter of mercury. If the difference in the pressure of pulse pressure in the upper and lower is more than 20 millimeter Hg or mercury, we call it Hill sign. This can be seen in aortic regurgitation as well. Then you should not confuse this with the pulse pressure of the coarctation of aorta. In coarctation of aorta, there is a proximal stenosis, so the blood moves to the subclavian artery more forcefully, and there is only less blood going to the lower limb. So the pressure in the upper limb is increased and lower limb is decreased. This means we have reversal of pulse pressure in case of coarctation of aorta. Then talking about the S2 in aortic regurgitation, it will be soft simply the fact because we cannot hear the sound of closing of aortic valve, simply because the valve leaflet does not coil properly, so we can only hear pulmonary component of S2. So the S2 tend to be soft. Then S4 can be positive because the left ventricle has already undergone a hypertrophy, so the arterial contraction against the stiffened ventricle causes S4. And we can hear two kinds of murmur in aortic regurgitation. In case of aortic regurgitation, we can hear an early diastolic murmur, or we call it decrescendo murmur. Another concept we have to remember is Austin-Flynn murmur. Austin-Flynn murmur is not due to the regurgitation. It is due to the regurgitation, but it is not completely due to the regurgitation. If the regurgitated volume of blood hit the mitral valve leaflet, it produces a vibration in the leaflet. It can contribute to a murmur. We call it Austin-Flynn murmur. And usually this murmur tend to be in the middle of systole. So we call it mid systolic murmur or Austin-Flynn murmur. Then another concept we have to remember is that ejection systolic murmur can also be heard in aortic regurgitation. Simply the fact that if we have coexistent aortic stenosis and aortic regurgitation together, we can hear ejection systolic murmur as well. Then we can see some pulsation in some organs. We call it like Gerard sign if the pulsation is felt in the spleen. We call it Gerard sign. Then Rosenbach sign is pulsation in the liver, which can be seen in three conditions. It can be seen in tricuspid regurgitation or tricuspid stenosis or in aortic regurgitation as well. And this should not be confused with the Rosenbach sign of eye. Rosenbach sign of eye is seen in Graves' disease. Like we have a tremor of the eyelids, we call it Rosenbach sign of eye. Then another rare findings is Landolfi sign, which means there is a pulsation in the pupil. Usually this sign usually appear later on the disease. So now we have this much technology and advanced medical treatment. Usually the patient does not have to we cannot see these findings nowadays. Now for workup we can use echo, and aortic regurgitation is classified as severe if the width of regurgitant jet is more than 65% of the left ventricular outflow tract. If it is more than 65%, we call it severe aortic regurgitation, or the volume of regurgitation is more than 60 ml per beat, we also call it severe aortic regurgitation. Then on chest X-ray we can see apex can be displaced left and inferiorly, which means there is a left ventricular hypertrophy. Here you can see the left ventricular apex or the cardiac apex points inferiorly and laterally. But in case if we have any right ventricular hypertrophy, usually the apex point upward and laterally. Now for treatment, in case of acute, you usually have to treat them with furosemide or sodium nitroprusside, simply the fact because we want to like cure the pulmonary edema, so we use furosemide, so the patient does not experience any dyspnea or paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea as well. But in chronic cases also can be treated with diuretic ACE inhibitors or calcium channel blockers as well. Then the aim is to maintain a pressure of 140 less than millimeter of mercury, less than 140 millimeter of mercury. Then beta blockers can be used in case of chronic, but cannot be used in case of acute, simply the fact that it can lead to heart failure as well. So it's contraindicated in case of acute, but we can use beta blockers in case of chronic. Then the most important treatment is aortic valve replacement. It can either be done transcutaneously or by open surgery. Now another concept is of pulse pressure in aortic regurgitation. The pulse pressure of patient with aortic regurgitation tend to have a void pulse pressure. Void pulse pressure means, okay, let me tell you about pulse pressure. Pulse pressure means systolic blood pressure minus diastolic blood pressure. In case of aortic regurgitation, during diastole, the blood cannot like maintain in the arteries or the muscular arteries. It is rejected into the left ventricle. So there is a decrease in diastolic pressure, and the more volume of blood accumulate in the left ventricle. So by Frank Starling law, the force generated will also be more. So the patient with aortic regurgitation tend to have a high systolic blood pressure and a less diastolic blood pressure. The pressure can be like even for example 240 by 40, which means the pulse pressure is around 200. In normal cases the pulse pressure is around 20 to 40, but here you can see a wide pulse pressure. Then another concept is of a large heart or cor bovinum. The heart of a patient with aortic regurgitation tend to be much more bigger than in any conditions of heart. So we call it cor bovinum, which means the heart of a buffalo. So the heart will be that much bigger, it can even exceed more than 1 kilogram.